Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Hammercast. And this is, in fact, the first ever bonus episode of the Hammercast. I decided that I wanted to, talk about other topics that I find interesting. Obviously, I can talk about fitness and strength training and getting swole all the live long day. But at the end of the day, I'm also interested in a wide variety of other things, such as music, foreign languages, traveling, and so on and so forth. So I thought, who better to initiate this first ever bonus episode than a guy who's got us all beat in all of those categories, Dr. Edoardo Carlesi. I think you're a very humble dude because you never actually call yourself Dr. Carlesi.
Because it's success. It's for losers. Like if you have to underline the fact that you always have to put that forward, that you're an engineer or whatever kind of title. Yeah. Oh, I don't know. In Italian, it would say like I'm an engineer or something. Or I'm doctor, whatever. I'm doctor, PhD. Yeah. Who cares?
Sure. Yeah, if you gotta say it, you ain't it. Like no one really.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not relevant. I mean, I think these are. I mean, of course, it's something important for me, but you don't have to put these labels forward every time you show up. So.
No, of course. Like when you're signing checks and you're introducing yourself and.
I mean, when you're signing mails and it's a work mail, then it's probably a good idea to do that. But apart from that situation, then
you don't want them thinking you're like the janitor, just like sending in
exactly
paper on the. Yeah. So, okay. So I'll give you a quick background of how Edoardo and I know each other. So back in a weird and wild world known as, I think it was 2015, maybe 2016.
It was 15.
2015. Okay. Yeah. We were both living in Jerusalem, and we had a mutual friend it was Lee Gansman, who was teaching you Arabic, and I was teaching him how to hoist a kettlebell. And I told him I was interested in improving my Italian, and he said, "Yeah, I have an Italian student, and I think he also wants to learn Hebrew, so maybe you guys can do an exchange of some sort." So I said, "Okay, yeah, sure." So we went to the Jerusalem language exchange at Abraham Hostel, and we met. We had some polite conversation. At this time, I didn't know that you were an aficionado of swearing like I am. So
exactly.
Yeah,
I didn't know either. I would have set aside all my.
Yeah, I still remember
politeness,
actually.
Useless politeness.
Yeah, exactly. It was you like. I always tell people you can't start off with like your A material when you meet somebody, because you don't know if that person is going to be, receptive to it or not. Like I have a funny story. When I lived in Jerusalem, I got a new room. One of my former roommates and I got a new roommate, and this guy he seemed pretty mild mannered when we agreed to take him on as a new roommate, and we were having a going away party for our soon to be departing roommate. We had a bunch of people from Katamon, which is the neighborhood that I lived in. And this dude was like A material, like I had never even heard half the stuff he was saying, but it was totally inappropriate for the conversation, because it was just like, I mean, it was too much even for me, and me,
okay.
like I can go pretty far, but it was like a room of people he didn't know. And then like the course of, it took him probably 45 minutes to catch on to the fact that nobody like really appreciated his jokes. And so in a very short.
But he was leaving anyway, right?
Right. Yeah. Well, he ended up just basically. I don't think he did any real favors for his reputation among those people. But we wanted to avoid a similar situation. I always do. I always start off with the C level material, like the stuff that's a little bit not anything too raunchy. But I remember that we met up a few times and we were exchanging notes on Hebrew and Italian. And then we met up at what is it, Smadar, the cinema thing?
Yeah,
it was like
exactly.
It was like a restaurant / cinema. And I was like, "Hey, do you want to learn some swear words?" You were like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
And from there, our friendship began in earnest. Prior to that, purely associates, and that was it. After that,
I recall the same scene in the same place. It was like, wow, this guy, okay.
Dude, you're going to find this crazy. I actually still have those notes. They're in this. Wow. This is my old Italian notebook. So I could go through and I could find them all.
Wow, I got them somewhere too, but I should look for them. I'm keeping everything, so
Of course. So and what were you doing in Jerusalem exactly? I don't want to tell your whole life story. I want you to.
Oh no, so it was my first postdoc. So I graduated in physics in Rome. Then I got a Master of Science between Rome and Germany. Then I did my PhD in Madrid, and then that was the first step after that. Like I was offered a position for 3 years in the Jerusalem, at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, and I agreed just because I like languages, I like conflicts, I like complicated stuff. I say,
Well,
yeah,
you
why not?
picked the perfect place for
And
that.
yeah, apart from the fact that of course, like scientifically, Israel is like one of the top ranking nations on earth. So I was working with a very good professor, and so I said it's a one in a lifetime occasion, so to say. So I accepted the offer and I moved there. It was already, I think it was the end of 2014 when I moved to Jerusalem, and then yeah, I stayed there for 3 years. So we met like shortly after. I think it was just a couple of months after I moved there. So we started hanging out.
Yeah.
The sooner the better. It was we enjoyed that time there. I mean, I enjoyed my time there, so it was.
It was a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
you talk about it's funny because when you live there you don't really, I think it's easy to kind of get lost to the fact that it's like such a special place for so many
yeah,
people. I lived there for 4 years, and it was like I would see tourists, just like marveling at everything, and I
yeah.
was like, yeah, look, it's Jaffa Street, who cares, but now that
Exactly.
I'm not there, I'm like, wow, I really missed that. It was
Yeah.
it was something really special.
Um,
Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, it's a one of a kind place. It's not a place that you don't find such places easily anywhere in the world. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so much history, so much things going on all the time, so much international kind of life, like people from all possible backgrounds living there, and
Yeah. Yeah,
yes.
it was truly a very interesting an interesting time,
Yeah,
and I don't say that generically like I don't know what to say about it or whatever. I mean, it really was, because there was always something cool going on.
yeah,
I mean, you actually, interestingly enough, you were the one I think who showed me a lot of the stuff I never would have found any like in any other instance. Like I think you and I went to the Italian synagogue there,
yeah.
and for I don't remember what it was. I think they were celebrating the birthday of somebody who had lived there since 1948. He was originally from Italy, and I think he moved.
I've been there on a couple of occasions. I remember once it was for the like we're celebrating some of the I think Italian volunteers that joined the Israeli army in
That,
1948 War of Independence.
that's what it was.
Was it? Because then another time, at the second occasion, I remember there was some kind of Vespa. They were like
I,
having this
exactly.
moped,
This is
like
just to give you an idea of how cramped Jerusalem is. Evidently, they couldn't find a better place to host like a Vespa exhibit. So these
yeah,
Vespa things that you see, like these, what would you even call them? Like a moped, pretty much, that
yeah,
you
it's
see.
a moped. Yeah,
Yeah, you see flying around the streets in Rome and stuff like that. They had an
yeah,
exhibit in the Italian synagogue. It
yeah,
was yeah, it was very interesting. But what else is really cool, I think, is that is your devotion for languages, because I like to think of myself as somebody who's interested in languages, but like you've really taken it to a pretty incredible level. And last time I checked, you speak 10 languages. Is that correct?
yeah. And unfortunately, yes, it's still true. I couldn't move forward with languages, so
Well, dude, 10 is a
I
pretty
got.
good place to stop. I mean, most people stop at
You
one.
shouldn't stop.
No,
That's
of
the
course not.
problem.
Of course not. But something tells me that you will get back on the game before too long. Most people are like, "Oh, I'll download Duolingo and I'll learn Spanish that way." And it's like you are going to speak just as poorly in 6 months as you do right now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I got stuck to that place, but replaced Spanish with Chinese. Actually, I mean, I also bought a book and tried to get some lessons, but I cannot move forward with Chinese. It's too hard, and it requires too much dedication. I don't have time at the moment.
yeah.
I
It,
should
it
either
seems.
pick up some other easier language at this point.
What kind of language?
I don't know, maybe like easier for me in the sense like maybe some Slavic language like Polish.
Sure.
Knowing Russian and Serbian would be pretty easy, at least like vocabulary wise.
Yeah.
Or I don't know, something that it's related to any language already know. I don't know, like Romanian, which is
Certainly.
latent. Yeah, I don't know, but that
So
way would work. I could continue like adding stuff to my list, but it's not as like when you say you speak 10 languages, yeah, it's 10. It's like a huge number. But the real question is, okay, how many different language families um, are you acquainted with? That's
yeah, I've said that to people before, but I always feel like I'm kind of downgrading an otherwise pretty impressive accomplishment. Like, I can speak Italian, but I don't have like the same skills in French or Spanish or anything like that. And I feel like if I were to take them on, I would totally want to take credit for having, even though they're part of the same language family, you know, I would break
Oh
my
yeah,
arm,
sure.
pat
But
myself
I
on the
mean, it would
back.
be much more impressive to speak Chinese instead of speaking Spanish in your
Sure.
case. I mean, in anyone's case, I would say
Yeah.
pretty much.
No,
So
I think you have a valid point. And before we go on, let's talk about all the languages you speak. So
okay,
obviously English and Italian. Being that Italian's your native language, that should still be on there, I would hope.
it's still there, yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So we got there's English,
Thank you.
Italian. What else?
I don't know. Well, German, French, Spanish, Portuguese. I'm not as fluent as the other ones, but yeah, I can speak it. Russian, did I say that?
Yeah.
Serbian, Arabic, Hebrew. Oh, I don't know if I missed something, but yeah, more or less.
Yeah, I can say from experience too. He speaks very good Hebrew. Like I would say better than a plurality of the native English speakers who live in Israel for a long period of time. You lived there for a relatively short period of time, and you learned both Hebrew and Arabic. And yeah, I've known way too many Americans, for example, who go there and they still barely got like barroom Hebrew down. Like they just don't apply themselves. But yeah, impressively. And I remember when I visited you in Berlin, we had a nice long conversation in Hebrew, and it was like I think your first one in quite some time, and you
Yeah.
held your own very well.
Oh, thanks.
I was I was very impressed. Now, but speaking of your time in Israel and all this other cool stuff, the other thing that I think is very interesting about you is that you have a very unique position as the bass player in a band that I really hope catches some interest in America, because your guys' music is awesome. I had the chance to tour with you last year as your merch guy, along with Greta, the
Yeah.
other merchandising gal, and it was just amazing. Like the people, like you're very popular in Italy. And I won't spoil too much. I want you to tell us a bit about it, because I want to. I know you guys have been around for like ages, and you're finally getting the recognition that you deserve beyond Italy, but even beyond Europe at this point.
Yeah, we're getting there slowly. Well, so first of all, a few words about Nanowar project. It was like it started as a solo band of mine, like back 17 years ago. Like I didn't really have much stuff to do at some points when I was at university, and I found out I had more free time than I would expect I had.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started off this band. It's called Nanowar of Steel, and it's like a spoof of Manowar. I mean, basically, it's a huge trolling on the heavy metal scene. Like to summarize it, like
That's a good way to summarize it.
yes, probably. I don't know if it's too extreme, but anyway, at least that was my. I found the metal scene was too serious back then. It still is nowadays to some extent, but I think I feel a few things have changed. But anyway, yeah, and so that started as like a solo project of mine, but it lasted for like right afterward, and after that I switched back to like I called back my I had some friends that were with whom I had a band during high school time, and so I called them back, and we basically turned this one man band into a real project. So the one man band phase lasted for maybe 1 month or two, and yeah, I would say we started last year sort of catching up outside of Europe, since we signed with Napalm Records, which is the label of Alter Bridge, Powerwolf. I don't know. There's Ailstorm, and so it's like one of the big metal labels. And so they're doing a good job. And we got, for the last video, we managed to get Michael Starr from Steel Panther on board. So he was singing, and he joined the video as well. Everything remotely, so was pretty little bit crazy, but it worked out fine, I would say. And so, yeah, as far as I can tell from the statistics I see on and the contacts we get from the website, social media, and so on and so forth, we got a growing audience in the US as well. So I hope it's
Yeah, that's fantastic, man.
expands. Yeah.
And you guys had I remember seeing one of your like your tour posters. Now you had to obviously, cancel a lot of the tour thanks to the coronavirus. But you
Right.
guys had planned all over Europe, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. There was shows in Germany and
Yeah.
France, obviously in
Sweden.
Italy.
Yeah. We canceled, I think, some because so we didn't even advertise. Of course, before Corona, we didn't even announce all the concerts we already planned. So we had like some maybe 20, 30 concerts for the summer. Plus, we had a full German tour. Plus, we were working on another European tour for the fall. So I think we canceled in the end something like maybe 50 concerts for this year. From Sweden, Switzerland, Portugal, Spain, everywhere. We were both scheduled to play everywhere in Europe, but next time.
Yeah. Do you have any lineup set up for 2021, or you're just not sure like what the future will bring? So you're kind of holding off.
So we already got a couple of tours set up for the fall in 2021, and I really hope they will take place, because if I think if the music industry is not going to work for another full year, then like it's not going to work. It's not going back anytime. I mean, it's people are
Yeah.
just going to starve. So
That's that is a huge issue, I think, in a number of different parts of the entertainment industry. I remember
yeah, sure.
I remember seeing something that your friend Dario posted on Facebook. He had a similar
Yeah,
issue because he's in a different field within the entertainment industry. And yeah, it's really a huge travesty.
it's scary.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But the one thing that is, I think, good about that is people are spending a bit more time, on entertainment online, and you guys have some videos that have gotten like millions and millions of views. I know
Yeah.
the big song from last year. Well, tell us about that, because that was just a tremendous hit.
You mean Norwegian reggaeton, right?
Of course, of course.
So Norwegian reggaeton was released, yes, in summer 2019, and yeah, it's our biggest hit so far. It's close to 7 million views on YouTube at the moment. Um, and yeah, it's like a mixture of metal and reggaeton. That's what pissed so many metalheads off. There's like
So there were people who
there's
were
a
mad about that song.
yeah, sure, there's a substantial amount of hate comments, like hate mail, and really people that get pissed off that we cannot mix holy music like metal with shitty music like reggaeton. So there's still people like idealizing music styles, and believing that they are something untouchable and god-given or something like that.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
but apart from that, no, that was a really life changer for us. It was we released the video in July 2019, and as soon as the video was released, it became like sort of viral. Like I remember, it got like 2 million views in the first 2 weeks, and it was a huge hit. It was like in the top 50 in both Italy and like in the digital sales. It was in the charts, so both in Italy and Spain. And then afterwards, we were being contacted by Spain Got Talent crew. So we got there we went on Spanish television. It was a pretty shit exhibition that we did there, but the show sucks, so we couldn't go any better.
It was the ultimate troll in the show. You're like, you guys, your show blows. We're gonna blow this experience as well. Yeah,
I mean, we actually we went there seriously. We were serious about that because we thought, okay, let's give it a try. Maybe you get famous or something, get exposition on
Sure.
on TV, and who knows, maybe we can go to Eurovision contest or something.
Yeah,
and that was the goal, but
and
no, it didn't work out as planned.
no, I was gonna say, speaking of hate, I know that like at least two. I watched the video. A couple of the
Yeah.
judges didn't really like. They
no,
didn't get it either. It seemed
No.
like the crowd was a little skeptical at first, but they kind of got into it.
Yeah.
Because I remember you tell like one of the judges was saying that he was on the edge, and you're like, well, the public likes it,
Yeah.
and they just didn't seem to appreciate you guys' humor, and I don't know if they even understood that it was humor.
No, I think anyway. So there were two issues. First of all, it's a technical issue in the sense that these are kind of programs, they have playback music, so we are not used to that, and so the way it sounds and the way you see the exhibition on stage is like not natural, because we don't do that. And second of all, the other issue was that we had been invited by the production of the show. So they called us and they insisted like for us to go there and join the show. And they said, you should definitely come here. We love your song. It's like, it's going to be a huge, it's going to be a massive hit, a massive success. Just come to the, to the Spain Got Talent show. It'd be huge, would be massive, blah, blah, blah. So we thought that the judges thought the same thing. No, it turns out they didn't like us. So like they were some kind of separated from the production's ideas. So
Yeah. Well, they missed out for sure, because I thought it was to me, it looked like a good performance, having watched it. And again, I was just watching it on YouTube. So
you
maybe
should buy new glasses then, or
yeah,
new ears, or
right.
whatever.
The ears thing is probably
you can do an ear transplant.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to aim for, because I'll take your word for it. If you said it sucked, then it probably sucked.
Absolutely, yeah.
But the great thing about it is that you guys don't really take yourselves too seriously anyway. You're not like some of these like, stick in the mud kind of guys. Cause it kind of surprised me that people got upset about Norwegian reggaeton, because it was, first of all, the song is great. It's like really catchy. And the video was hilarious. It was like, you did a really great job with contrasts. Like, for the people who have not yet watched the video, you have to watch it. It's great. It's the band members are dressed alternatively like black metal musicians. Would you've never seen it? They got what's called corpse paint, so it's like white painted face with occasionally some designs or exaggerated features, long black hair, like black coats, and they're on a beach. And so it's like a mixture, literally, of like black metal music and reggaeton.
Yeah,
it's hysterical. And then again, like, and then they'll mix it up, and then they'll be dressed like reggaeton singers for other parts of this. I like, my description doesn't do it justice. It's a really funny video, and it's unfortunate that so many metalheads are still so, like, how should I say, stuck in their ways.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah, a pain in the ass is
I think like this. I mean, of course, like in general, people take themselves seriously, but you shouldn't expect them to do that in the metal scene. But I think in 2020, it's long past to the time where people were supposed to take themselves seriously, but no, they still do it. It's
well, and the other thing is that if you go to a concert, like you want to have kind of like an escape sort of an experience. You want it to be something that's enjoyable. You're putting your other woes off to the side. Sure. And if you go there and it's like everybody's taking it too seriously, the musicians don't like it, that they don't like the crowd or this or that, it's like, I think it kind of dampens the experience. When I was watching your shows, it was like everybody was there to see you, is what it felt like, because even the people who were there to see their friends' bands really got into what you guys did. Like, there were always people coming over to the booths, that we were selling stuff out of, and asking about, do you have this, do you have that, what have you. And I didn't really see that with some of the other bands. It was like people were really excited for you guys to be there, and you always put on a really great stage show. And it's low, maybe not super low tech, but there's no pyrotechnics, there's no other stuff like this. It's just very entertaining to watch on stage. But I guess that turns some people off.
Yeah, it's you're right.
Wow, that's the first time he's ever admitted I was right about something.
Wow, yeah, sure, because you're telling nice words about my band. So how could I ever disagree?
Right, yeah. No, I recommend though that anybody who is listening, and I do have a few people who who follow me who like Nanowar. In fact, one of them I mentioned when I was in Italy last year. He sent me a message on Instagram. He's like, I can't believe you're friends with Nanowar of Steel. And I was like, and he's another guy from Rome. And I was like, well, I can't believe that, that you guys are so big that somebody, who follows me, granted, he lives in Italy, so it's not like this was just some Nebraskan
for someone, but
right. But he was super excited about that. And I've spoken to a few other people who are very excited.
You're telling there's nothing to be excited about.
I like that sense of humor. Actually, you know what? I read, what was it? I think after you guys had signed with Napalm Records, you had a really funny statement. It's like, we don't want everybody just to think that we're a bunch of clowns or whatever. We want people to know that we're clowns who know how to sign a record contract or something similar to that. And I was like,
that's what we say.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was like, for a moment I was worried you guys were taking yourselves too seriously. I was like, okay, no,
that's not gonna happen. That's not what we've been signed for. And I think, this is one thing that I noticed. but in the metal scene, especially with with the rise, so to say, of social media, but especially it's not just about social media. It's like about sharing funny memes. That's what everyone does. Everyone is into sharing memes today.
Yeah.
And so even like the most serious metal musician does share memes about his band nowadays. Like everyone does that.
Yeah.
If you look at like the big band's Instagram accounts, like from time to time they would drop in some jokes, some something funny, or some video, some parody, some spoof. And so I think that it has become more acceptable, like in the metal scene as a whole, like to make parodies, because everyone is doing that. Like that's something that like, come on, you open any Instagram or Facebook account, you're always like flooded with funny stuff. There's plenty of memes, meme pages that take the piece of metal bands.
Yeah, and I think too that because again we're in a time where there's less forced, less human interaction. It's like people go to like one of their ways of escaping is going to flipping through Instagram and like sharing funny memes with their friends and stuff like that. And I saw something you guys posted the other day that you guys are very good about taking memes that are very popular and then applying it to something recent with the band. Like there was one that I think you said somebody in your Facebook group had made the meme, and so you guys were sharing it or something like that.
Yeah.
And you have a very interesting name for the Facebook group. What was it? Nano Warriors of the
Achaio Inox.
Exactly. Okay. Now explain to people what Achaio Inox is, because this actually ties into my favorite Nanowar song, and there's a great story at the end of it, and I would love people to hear it.
Okay, so Achaio Inox means stainless steel, and so that's again, that's because our most famous song. So first of all, I think as a band, like we have this kind of a weird identity in the sense that we have a lot of songs in English, but we got a lot of songs in Italian as well. We got a bunch of songs in other languages too, but I would say like 90% of Nanowar's discography is either Italian or English. So of course, like we have a dedicated fan base in Italy that knows us for a certain number of songs, and many of them also appreciate the stuff in English. And so, like we have these jokes about the stainless steel because they come from this song Giorgio Mastrota. I think that's what you meant, right?
Yes, exactly.
And so stainless steel is because there's on commercials in television, you always see someone trying to sell you like these stainless steel pots and stainless steel whatever, like pans or knives, whatever. So like the purest stuff for usually some kitchen item or something like that. And so we thought, okay, if this guy, especially this one guy is Giorgio Mastrota, is selling so much stainless steel stuff, like this pure steel, pure metal, then he must be the king of heavy metal as well. So it must be epicized. So that's how the whole thing came on. But
and so you wrote a song about him, and you got some samples of him, like hawking his wares on. Now, are they actually commercials or are they infomercials, like kind of the 30-minute long thing?
Oh no, they are both. I mean, usually, I think the ones that we because he's doing both things. Like it's like on major televisions, like usually it's doing, of course, commercials, because like on the biggest channels, then they just put some 30 seconds ads or something. And then he has some like in some smaller TVs, I think he's like talking longer time, maybe for 10-15 minutes about some mattresses or whatever. I'm not really so much into that. Let's say I'm into the
You're into a different kind of metal.
I didn't buy the DVDs yet of all, the complete collection of Giorgio Mastrota's.
He should give that to you, just based on the amount of free press he's gotten from you guys' band.
Oh, I mean, we are on very friendly terms with him. He's recording a song for us for the next album, actually. Yeah, just yesterday we got some videos of him in the studio recording with us. So
that's awesome. Yeah, one of my favorite concert videos is you guys are getting ready to play the song, like the intro starting. Somebody comes out on stage dressed really nicely in a suit, and he's got like this big helmet on. The crowd has no idea who it is, and then he takes the helmet off, and boom, it's Giorgio Mastrota. And the crowd like loses their mind. It was like it was, even if you didn't really know much about it, you can just tell from watching the video. A really special experience.
That's one of the biggest festivals in Italy. It's called Luca Comics.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a comics festival, comic books and sci-fi and these kind of things, like for nerds. And so we are always invited to play at this not always, but like every 2 years we usually go there and play. And so we had the occasion to invite Giorgio Mastroda himself like to perform with us. And the thing you were mentioning, he was wearing a helm because we got a song about feudalism, and so it's called Feudalism and Freedom. And that was the song we were playing before that. And that song is like dedicated to the emperor. It's like a song advocating for the return of the Holy Roman Empire as instead of the like replacing the European Union with some kind of imperial system, like
Sure.
going back to the Middle Ages. That's what we are advocating for in that song. And so in that song we said, oh look, we got the emperor on stage, but the emperor was wearing a helm, so no one really knew who he was. So when the song ended, then we started playing Giorgio Mastroda, and then it turns out that the emperor himself was Giorgio Mastroda.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's I did not know that first part. I mean, I know the song, feudalism and freedom,
Yeah.
but I did not know the first part. Now, did you guys contact him, or did he contact you and say, "Hey, I want to appear on stage"? How did that work out?
Something in between, in the sense that let me just have a few words more about this guy. So this guy is usually on TV for commercials, but it's like, so he was the winner, I think, of the beauty contest in the 90s. Like, was the nicest man in Italy in the 90s or something. And then in the 90s he was also, I think, he was an anchorman. He was doing a bunch of stuff on television. So like during the whole 90s was pretty busy doing any kind, lot of different stuff, like maybe movies and so on and so forth. Then I think he he chose like to do the something easier, so he didn't have to take care too much about like doing this commercials. So it was it wasn't take so much time, and it was paying more. That's my understanding of what happened. So but he's always appearing on Italian television as a guest, like in some like programs. And so once I remember we got contacted by one of these programs. They were having him as a guest, and they were asking for permission to broadcast our song and our video. And so we said, yeah, you can do that, of course, like for free. You don't need, like, we can give you the rights, no worries, but we want to come there and meet him. And so that's what happened. Like a couple of us, like our manager and a guitar player, went to the studio where they were recording this episode of this program. I forgot the name, but it's not relevant anyway. It was, I think, 3 years ago. Yeah, and then we met, and he was so happy. He really liked the song. He really liked the fact we just didn't write. I mean, we didn't only write a song about him. It's like also the main character of a comic book that we made. Like, our singer is like a professional illustrator and artist, so he did that basically with the, and it got published. And so he was very happy to be like the hero, the main character of a comic book, as well as being the hero and main character of a song which has several million views on YouTube. So it was
Yeah,
very proud of both things.
Yeah, who would be, man? That's like it's a dream come true for most people.
Yeah,
whether
I
they
don't
know
know.
it or not. It's probably not on top of their
I mean,
written list of things, but
he's a very, very, very famous dude in Italy, anyways. Because if you turn on television in Italy any time of the day, you would, chances are you would see him. It's like, on seriously, it's like maybe half. I mean, half, I'm exaggerating, but there's just so many commercials that have this guy on. So he's very, very popular. I mean, famous. Now I think he got popular because, like, as long as you watch someone trying to sell you a mattress or a pot, or I don't know, some stairs or whatever, like any kind of bullshit, then you don't really like the guy. But once you see that the guy is really cool, like he comes with on stage singing the song about himself that is a parody of him, then people like really change the perception of seriously. Like, if you look at the people that in that concert in Lucca, the audience was completely loving him. Like it's not, and it's like young people that normally would skip, if they watch him on TV, they would say, "Oh, fuck off!" Like, shut up. They would probably say that nowadays, but since he got so epicized, I would say now by our songs and comics.
Yeah, it's that's a very good point. I think that people we see, I know I do this all the time. Like something will happen to somebody famous, and either to you or to one of my other friends, I'll like make fun of them. It's like I don't really have any skin in the game. I don't really dislike the person, but it's just like the person's everywhere. Like I'm tired of hearing about him.
Exactly.
But then you find out that they have a good sense of humor, or that they can take a joke about themselves, and you're like, okay, they're really a lot more like me than I would have originally seen. So you see them in a different way.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons why I think that you guys, this is just my assumption, one of the reasons I think you guys are so popular, in addition to having very good music and very well written lyrics, you guys, you're not trying to save the world with music, you're just having a good time. And I think people who are musicians often lose themselves in
Absolutely.
pretending like they're going to cure cancer if they play like the right riff. It's like it doesn't work like that, man. You just got to put a smile on people's faces, and that's about it.
Absolutely. And I think you couldn't have phrased it better. It's like it's something that really, like, I don't think I'm saving the world or doing something interesting when I'm working as a scientist. Like my full daytime job is like an astrophysicist. So I'm a researcher full time. And I don't take that seriously. I mean, I take that seriously insofar as, like I need to produce scientific solid results, science wise. But I'm not considering myself like, oh, I'm a genius or doing something special. So let alone when I'm doing music with that, like when I'm doing music, it's even less. Come on, I'm just having to try to have a good time and have some fun and like take it easy. It's this is something I always hated, like when people take themselves too serious. It's like um it's not like you shouldn't take yourself seriously, never ever in your life. Of course, that's like, I think there's a very small restricted subset of topic that you should take seriously sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes politics, sometimes religion, sometimes I don't know, it makes sense to take politics seriously sometimes.
Sure.
It makes sense to make parodies of politics sometimes. It makes sense, it's like everything. But I can understand why people take themselves seriously in that field. But music, are you kidding me? Like, music is entertainment. It's a cornerstone of life. I would say, like, music in general. Everyone, like, if you see at how much music is being consumed by everyone, how much music is being listened to, it's a very important thing, but doesn't mean that it needs to be taken seriously. They cannot make jokes about it. It's absolutely not. It's absolutely the opposite.
Yeah.
It should be lighthearted about music taste and bands, and they're not.
Yeah, I think that's even true for, you talked about certain professions like politics or religion, if you're a theologian or what have you. But I would also say if you're a medical doctor, it's probably
Absolutely.
important, to take yourself seriously. But even at that, I remember there used to be a series. It was back in the day. I don't know if you remember this. They used to have what were called blog rings. So it was like you'd have like a website. I think that's what they called. But there'd be like kind of like an anchor website where they'd have links to different like associated blogs. Like it'd be one like the one that I used to read a lot when I was in high school was Tucker Max. He's writing books and doing other things like that now, but he had like the funniest blogs ever. It was just about his experience as like an out of control teenager and young adult, and like the hijinks he got himself into. But he had friends who wrote about the different things that they did that were, somewhat, they would probably be in the same like category of humor and stuff like that he was in, but it wasn't overlapping material. Like he had somebody who was, I think he worked at like a camp for developmentally disabled kids, and he still managed to turn some of these stories into like funny stories. I mean, and a lot of this stuff is tragic. We might laugh a little bit more about it off air if I tell you some of the stories that he talks about. But he's not a little un-PC, but he was not making fun of the kids. It was like he was recounting situations where it was like the kids who were under his care. And these were mostly, I think, like 12, 13-year-olds, so these aren't like they're like beyond the adolescent stage, like young teens, whatever.
Yeah.
And they had some various tough circumstances in life, and they were fortunately in a camp that was designed to help kind of put them on the right track. But they got into like episodes where they would do or say something funny, and then he would write about it, and it was hilarious. He wrote some very funny stuff, and it was in a way that was sympathetic to the kids, but it still allowed you to laugh at the situations that they found themselves in. And he took his job seriously. But it's like, if you can't laugh about the funny stuff that happens, it becomes an unbearable job, and then good people will quit.
Yeah. No, and I mean, in general, if you cannot laugh about something you're doing, you're taking yourself too seriously, you should really think twice. I mean, is it really the good kind of, is this the kind of attitude that you need to have in life in general? Like, it doesn't mean like if you laugh about something or you make jokes about something, you're not taking it seriously. I think it's two disconnected things. It's like the capacity, the ability of being able to laugh, to make jokes about even something that is important to you. It doesn't mean you're like demeaning that you're making, or it's not an insult. It's why? Not necessarily. I mean, not at all. I mean, in general.
Yeah.
And in general, like for me, it's like it's something I really look into people. If how able are they to laugh even about things that they are doing? Are you really taking yourself seriously that much? Or like usually it's either boring or dangerous people, those that take themselves too seriously. Usually it's like the first kind of just boring, or they think like my music is the best thing, and oh no, you have to do this and like in a certain way, and you need to behave in a certain way during my concert, and so on and so forth. But yeah, then I mean, when you apply this to any kind of political ideology or religious ideology, then you cannot take a joke. You cannot make a picture of Muhammad and people are gonna set on fire your embassy. So
Yeah.
that's I mean that's an extreme example, but it's the same mentality. It's like taking it to the extreme.
Yeah, 100%. A great example of this is like, I don't think there's a single conversation that we have that doesn't start out with us insulting each other.
No,
like,
sure.
yeah, I'll get a text like "stronzo di merda."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Fanculo, pezzo.
yeah.
Pezzo di cane.
Yeah, or I remember you had it was that your friend George from the West Bank. You showed me, he sent you a picture. I think he was at the Dead Sea, and he put a bunch of mud on his face, and all you wrote back was "faccia di merda," like shit face, basically, for for people who are listening. And he has a good sense of humor, so he didn't get offended. He thought it was funny.
Oh no! But of course, I mean, he would reply the same way. I mean, for me, it's like if I'm not insulting you, then you don't mean anything to me. You're not a good friend of mine.
Yeah, you don't even like him. That's exactly it. If your friends don't make fun of you, they're not your friends.
No. Because if you're, it's either because you are too boring, so you're oversensitive and you're overreacting to any joke I might make. So why should I waste my time with someone I cannot have fun with? Sorry.
Yeah.
Or it's just I don't care so much about you as thinking about jokes or how to make you react or make you laugh. So that's
exactly. It's like you're just purely colleagues or associates. There's nothing
exactly
friendly involved. Yeah,
neutral. Like okay, I mean you don't need to be friends with everyone, but for me, like making fun of people and making even like borderline jokes, not to say overtly racist or whatever. I don't care. Like you.
If that I was having this discussion with a friend the other day who's very liberal, very left leaning, but he's not like an ideologue, I would say, because for example, he really likes Jordan Peterson and stuff like that. So he's but I think he just tends to be temperamentally like more liberal. And I was explaining, look, you can make like anti-Semitic jokes or racist jokes, and it's okay, provided, number one, you have to know the context. Like, I'll give you an example. I remember one time, many years ago, I was invited over to the apartment of like a couple of gals. It was kind of like a quasi friend of mine. I call him quasi friend because like I don't really talk to him anymore, and we just kind of hung in the same circles. But he invited me over. He's like, "Yeah, I'm hanging out with these two gals at their apartment. Why don't you come over?" So I was like, all right. So I came in, and evidently before I came there, he mentioned to them that I was Jewish, and I had never met these gals in my life. And the first thing they did when I walked in was made like a really anti-Semitic remark.
Okay.
And I was like, I didn't even know you people. Like, you know, if you did it, I would find it very funny because I know it's meant as a joke. So what I was explaining to him is that, look, if somebody's a racist and they say a racist joke, it's not really funny because they're not really meaning it as a joke. They're meaning it as like an attempt at a humorous way to explain their belief.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
but if somebody who, you know, like you, if you say something like just yesterday, you sent me something that was very anti-Jewish,
Yeah.
and I thought it was really fun. And I came back with something like I doubled it,
You
right?
double down. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we had a good laugh because I know that you're not saying it as like an attempt at humorously conveying, you know, like an
No.
anti-Jewish belief. It's because you don't believe it that it's funny because, you know, we can
Because I'm sharing
laugh.
it with you. I mean, otherwise I would share with someone else. I mean, of
It,
course, like as you said, background is everything. It's not. It's not like
exactly.
you can. I would never think you're like you should be allowed to make any kind of joke anytime, anywhere in front of everyone. But if you do, like, and of course, like people that share the same kind of humor and do that, so it's absolutely fine. I mean, as you mentioned before, like my friend George, but I had many of friends in the West Bank, like Arabs, and we were making terrorist jokes about like suicidal attacks and stuff. We should say, oh, you shouldn't do this, but why should? I mean, I have fun. They have fun with me. It's a
Yeah.
way like it's the same way when I mentioned I'm Italian and they make mafia jokes, pasta jokes, you know, all these kind of stereotypes. I mean, I don't care. I don't care. It's like it's a way. Like stereotypes are there to be made fun of. Like it's a way of laughing about people. Of course, if someone was meaning that in a different way, then I would feel it and I wouldn't be laughing. I was probably kicking his ass. But
Yeah.
um, once you know that there can be this kind of situation where you know, like friendship is also making fun of each other. It's not even. I'm not saying I want to offend you, but I want, you know, I want to make fun of, you know, not even make fun. I want to, you know, usually it's like you say something which is paradoxical or extreme, and that's what makes you laugh. It's not the content of the message behind it. It's just because it's something extreme and it makes you laugh.
Exactly.
So
Or if it's something absurd, you know,
yeah,
like that's the exact same thing. Yeah. And more than anything, it has to do with the person who is, I think, making the joke. And if it's not meant in um, like in a joking way, yeah, again, it's just not, or you don't know the person. It's really context specific. But I think that shows people that you actually have a better sense of humor and they're more likely to actually see, like, humanize you. So like, Italian jokes aren't really all that common in the US because I don't think
no,
we know, like, you know, pizza, pasta, whatever, you know,
yeah,
make jokes like that. Most of the jokes aimed at Italians in America are aimed at people of Italian heritage who are not from Italy. Like, hey, how you doing? Hey, my cousin told me the other, you know, like more like jokes with like a Brooklyn Italian accent. Like
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
Italian joke in America.
Okay.
Um, but but yeah, I find that for the most part, Italians have a very good sense of humor about that sort of a thing because they don't take themselves super seriously. Now there are other groups of Europeans who do take themselves very seriously, and they don't necessarily,
Oh yeah.
on the whole, have a great sense of humor. But Italians are a very funny bunch of people.
Yeah.
My experience, absolutely.
On
Uh,
average, yes, I would say. I mean, we're getting a lot of. I'm sorry to say that, but we're getting a lot of those that kind of PC culture here as well. It's the same kind of structure and language that you see about. I mean, it's something that I know I've been following. If you watch what happens in the US, and then you see the same kind of language and PC approaches being used by extreme lefts also in Italy, then it's something that makes me really sad in a way because it's not. I don't like extreme PC. I mean, political correctness. It's something like I would say that first of all, as a musician, like I don't like when people try to, you know, put limits on your free speech, on the kind of jokes that you want to make. Of course, there are inappropriate jokes, but it's not up to you to decide beforehand what's appropriate or not. It's again, it's so I feel it like personally. I see that sometimes. I mean, we might be getting there as well with the. We had a few we didn't have like many instances of that with the band. We didn't face yet.
yeah.
I mean, we had some like some remarks, and then also with the label, oh, you know, this kind of thing is not allowed. You shouldn't make this kind of joke. It's happening so slowly, but
You know, it's interesting to hear you say that because I think the perception by a lot of people in America is that it's actually worse in Europe than it is in America. And and maybe it depends on where, I
You mean
think it's
PC culture or what?
exactly PC culture.
Oh no, no. I would say it's much worse. I mean, it's not I have a huge experience in the US. It's again, but at least like judging, if you remember when we met in Pennsylvania, then I went to the Penn, like in Philadelphia, and I mean the kind of posters, the kind of topics, or I was same thing in Boulder, by the way, when I went to Boulder,
Oh, Boulder's a
Colorado.
super
Yeah.
liberal place. Yeah.
So I remember, and I was there at university as well, and so at least you go into university buildings, university structure, interact with people that work there, then you see that. I mean, at least I had this very strong impression of this extreme political correctness. Again, all this language on these problematic things, or whiteness is a problem. I don't know. Of course, like it's something that I cannot apply, as Italians are white by sort of nature,
Well,
because we
now they're
happen to.
considered white. Actually,
I don't know,
earlier
but
on, in America, they were not considered white. So this is just one of those things too, where it's like the labels change all the time. Like once they decide,
I am.
oh well, now we can also hate Italians because we've decided that they are part of the problem, because they're white or they're European or whatever.
I just wanted to say that like we don't have the kind of structure in society that is in the US. So the kind of
Oh, I see.
terms that they are applied when you look at the debates, and then the kind of thing that's going on in the US, it's a little bit different here. I mean,
Yeah.
of course, there's like second generation Italians, first generation Italians that moved from Africa here, and so we're moving in that direction as well, like in a sense of multicultural society. Which, by the way, I don't have anything against it. I'm completely whatever. I mean, it's good, it's fine, as long as people need to respect the law. Then
Yeah.
I don't have any other requests from anyone, but it's just the kind of language that bothers me, like when you need to enforce things from above and make things tolerant, make things respectful, like some kind of, to some degree, disrespect, in the sense of making fun of people, making fun of things, making fun of habits, making fun of whatever. It's needs to be allowed, and so it cannot.
I agree. And again, I think too that, well, the interesting thing is, in a lot of those cases, it seems like the people, by and large, the people who are complaining about that are not actually the people who are the targets of like
no
jokes
it's
or
true.
whatever. It's like, like somebody, for example, I think there was here in America, I think it was the Washington Redskins. There was a football team, and they changed the name because they're like, oh, well, that might offend Native Americans. But like 9 out of 10 Native Americans polled were like, yeah, I'm not offended by that name.
No,
so
of course.
it was an initiative that was
absolutely
put forth by people who have no,
skin in the game,
who weren't actually, it was by people who weren't affected by it and were offended by it. And your offense doesn't mean that you need that other people.
No. It's something that, but I mean, again, as I told you, like when I was making fun of Islam, and I don't know, like terrorist attacks and stuff, most of the time with my Muslim friends. I mean, and when, people say you have Muslim friends, you have. I mean, I speak Arabic. I was invited by at Arabic weddings. Like. So I really have strong bonds to people, and when I say I'm a friend, I really mean a friend. And that's what makes me a friend of that, is that we can make fun about their background and my background, like make jokes about it. It's not, and first of all, it's something that I know it's not I'm making jokes about. It's something that makes things even funnier from my point of view, like the fact that I speak Arabic, I can make better jokes about the Quran. But anyway.
Exactly.
So it's now I think you want to continue with your podcast, right? You don't want to be.
No, I think this is good discussion, because this is a bonus episode. So we're just talking about stuff that, outside of the world of fitness that I find interesting. And I think this is an important topic because, I remember growing up, it was like, now there were people who would say things with the intention of being offensive, but there were also people but generally speaking, people understood like the need to take a joke, and people would tell you, hey, if somebody says something you don't like, when you're a little kid, they say sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. You're like, you're expected to just get over it. And I, again, that doesn't give people carte blanche to just be complete jerks. But
no.
On the other hand, it's like, you have to develop some thick skin.
Sure.
And I just, a great example of this would be, because we talked about politics earlier. I think Jim Carrey's been doing a lot of painting lately, and he'll paint politicians that he doesn't like in like an unflattering light. And he did that to Ted Cruz, who during the 2016 election year, he was one of the candidates, and he was not a very well liked candidate because he's seen as being kind of like too conservative, you know, too stuck up. But since then, he's kind of garnered a because that's basically how I saw him too. I was like, this guy just seems like a stick in the mud. But since then, he's garnered I think a bit more appreciation from a lot of people because he'll have like very funny responses to things. Like I think Trump said that he looked like the Zodiac killer. Like if you see like the sketches of the Zodiac killer, he said that Cruz looked like the Zodiac killer. And then there was I think there was something like the anniversary of like, you know, one of the Zodiac killer's crimes, and Ted Cruz tweeted something like happy anniversary or something like that. And it was like a Zodiac no, I don't remember what it was. It was something pertaining to that. And everybody got a good laugh. You're like, wow, this guy seemed like really wooden. And now he seems a lot funnier. Jim Carrey drew a painting of him recently. And it's like, he looks like a demon, you know, there's like flames behind him. He goes, and he tweeted at Jim Carrey, and he's like, hey, can I get one of those for my office? And so he seems more human like that, you know, like he can take people making fun of him, and he didn't take it too seriously. And you know, that's just the way that it seemed like it used to be.
That's the right way. I mean, of course, maybe there is some kind of strategy behind this, but in general, like, of course, people that can take jokes are more likable. It's people that you would feel like, I don't have to take, like, every word that I might say might offend you. So
yeah,
I would never ever hang out with such people, because it's first of all, it must be very boring, to be honest. Like, if you cannot really take a joke, then we don't have much to share, because then I would get bored after after 2 words. And I mean, it's what else if you cannot like share a laugh with someone, or be able to, you know.
At best it would be a friendship of convenience, you know, like, oh, this person might help me get a leg up, you know, in the company I work for, or something like that. And that's just, you don't want to go through life with a bunch of like phony friends.
No, you don't want, no, of course.
I agree.
There's
so
not much to share, but I mean, like, laughing, it's one of the good things you share with friends, like having a good laugh with someone. And if you know that you cannot cross too many boundaries, because otherwise this guy gets offended, and, you know,
right,
and you're never gonna have some fun if you don't feel free to say, not of course whatever, but, you know, there's like very broad limits to whatever you can say.
No, of course. Yeah, there are some limits. I think, like, I have some general rules of like jokes that I don't make with people. Like, I won't make fun of their wife or their kids or something like that. But, you know, you might still make fun of their mom. You know, like it depends. It depends a lot on the person. But yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And I think having a sense of humor like that is gonna serve you better in life than taking yourself super duper seriously. And I wish I would have to make this a paid episode if I wanted to go into all the details of some of the stuff that you and I say, because it would definitely be I'm sure, I don't want to say it would cause an uproar, because we're not like that insane, but we still say some stuff that's messed up. But the good thing is that it's often aimed at one another, and we have a good enough time. Oh, you know what? One thing I did want to say, actually, because this reminded me of that. So I've been learning Arabic this year, actually with Lee, our friend Lee.
Okay, well.
Yeah, and I have an old keffiyeh that I got years back, and I decided I was going to wrap it, and I took a selfie of myself, and I used it like, this is my mask, you know, for when I go out or something like that.
Okay.
And then I was supposed to have a date with this gal, and who turned out to be like total SJW. The date was just a super bore, like yawn fest. But I sent it to her. She said, I hope you're going to wear a mask when we go out. And I was like, yeah, I actually have mine picked out. And I sent her this picture, and it was like crickets, man. Like, she did not find it funny. And so I tried to make a joke about it on our date, be like, yeah, you didn't really like I had a different mask. Cause, like, you know, I had to bring a different mask because you really didn't like the one that I sent you. And she's like, well, it seems a little bit like cultural appropriation. I'm like, girl, I'm learning the language. Like, I know I'll forget more of the language that you're ever going to know. And, you know, and it just, like, I didn't know how to describe in a way that was monosyllabic enough for her to be able to understand that her position was completely ridiculous. And realistically, I should have just not even gone on the date. Or like, if she can't laugh at like something like this, which, all I told her, I was like, yeah, my Arab friends really liked it. They thought it was really funny. And she didn't really have a response to it. It's like, how can you respond to that? Like the people that you're offended for are not offended. So like, just get over yourself.
Yeah, I mean, this whole cultural appropriation thing is like, I will never understand how can you take that seriously? Because then you should stop, I don't know, wearing shoes because they're made in China or whatever, I don't know.
Yeah.
And in China, they got the recipe, what would you say, like the instruction of how to build those shoes. They probably got them from the West, from some Western
Yeah.
company.
Well, I mean, I think the whole idea
Culture has always been mixed like this. Everything is a mixture of things. Like you don't have a pristine Italian original things. Like even the most Italian dish, it's pasta with tomato sauce. Tomatoes are not original from Italy.
Yeah.
So what? It's like Mexican appropriation or something. I mean, what?
Yeah, it's just
things evolve, things merge, things change, things mix. So I should set on fire probably half of the world outside of Italy would be if if I would take the word cultural appropriation seriously, because just the way they misinterpret Italian cuisine or
that's
style
fair
or whatever.
That's perfectly fair, actually, because
Yeah, but I mean, then if you want to take it serious, then prepare for Italian invasion everywhere, because there's no one is doing Italian things properly. The thing is, like Italian restaurants most of the time outside of Italy just suck, and it's they take the names and they're appropriating our whatever the outlook, probably the way that these dishes looks like, but the taste and the ingredients are completely different. But so what? Does it really make sense? I mean, who cares? Like, do whatever you want, call it whatever you want. And I don't know any copyright. Like, culture usually has no copyright. You're
right.
free to.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it always goes one way. Like if I put on like a keffiyeh, which by the way, I bought from an Arab, so it's like I was patronizing an Arab business.
Yeah.
And I'm not doing, again, I was not doing it in a patronizing way wearing it. It was just like I owned it. I thought it was funny. Again, I'm interested in Arab culture and Arab language, so it's like it was not even done as to me. It never would have occurred to me that like anybody would have gotten offended by it. I mean, I guess I knew in the back of my head that like someone was going to whine about it, or find something to complain about. But yeah, the whole idea, like, and as we were on this date in particular, we were getting ready to go into like an Ethiopian coffee place that I really liked, like here in town. And so I was like, I wanted to be like, well, hang on a second. Like if they're wearing Western clothes, you're going to complain that they're appropriating our culture and that they can only wear the stuff. Like nobody would even think to say something
it's dumb
like
shit. I mean, why should you ever complain that some African guy is not dressing in typical African dresses, but is wearing, blue jeans? They're not from Africa. You shouldn't dress them. You shouldn't wear them.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I mean, no one in his right mind would ever like object something like this, because it's crazy. But then if you do that the other way around, then you say it's cultural appropriation.
Right.
I don't get it.
No, the only people who I think deserve to get dinged by stuff like that are people like Justin Trudeau, because he's just such a pandering wanker. Like when he
went to
even
to India,
when he went to India and he dressed up and he was like doing the whole namaste whatever thing, that itself I thought was a little cringy, but it wasn't. I couldn't see it as being offensive. The only thing I thought was like really pushing it is he did blackface, and of course they tried to soften it, and his crew was like, oh, it was actually brown face. I don't know if you heard about this. This is what.
But it was like during university, like at college.
Yeah, I mean it was so long ago, and
exactly. Like there's something else I don't understand. Like you could go like into my past and taking pictures like when I got drunk at some party 20 years ago, and so what? I mean, is it really telling something about me? Why would you like take? Who cares? Like 20 years ago you had this blackface, so what? I mean,
yeah.
Is it relevant? How much?
Well, it is especially weird because with the blackface thing, it's like I understand why people find it upsetting, let's say, because the history of it obviously is not particularly kind. But then it was kind of like there was enough time had passed, and then there were a bunch of like late 90s, early 2000s, there was a bunch of actors who were doing blackface in like skits. Like Jimmy Kimmel he would do an impression of a basketball player named Karl Malone, who was a black guy. So he had blackface and all this other business. And it was like, at the time, it was kind of like a little provocative because it's like, okay, that's got kind of a bad past. But, his intention is not obviously to be, He's making fun of one person in particular, and he's doing an impression of him.
I mean, you shouldn't always reduce things to, one dimension. Race is not racist. There's other intentions. There's other, things that you might convey with some kind of dressing, some kind of, yeah, like the blackface. I mean, it always depends on the context, as you said. You cannot just go and point your finger at everything you deem like racist, or there's so many meanings to every action that people can do. And
yeah, either or thinking is the lowest form of thinking. Like I remember there was a time in the U.S. people busted George Bush's chops because he said you're either with us or against us. Now all of a sudden it's the exact same thing, but like in the reverse.
Yeah.
I think in both cases it didn't make a lot of sense. It's like there's a lot of nuance for more intermediate positions. You got to understand them. It's like if you break it down to either or, like that's just dumbing down the way people.
Oh no, of course. I mean, the world is people are complicated. The world is complicated. Like there's so many dimensions of thinking. You cannot just reduce everything to. Of course, then when you need to make choices, you need to say yes or no. But that's like the last step. It's not the first thing. It's like everything is fascist or everything is communist or everything. Like you have this really weird, like these labels you put on people, and you're erasing all the nuances, all the differences, and all the things that are there, and you're not learning much in the end. It's just, again, it's the like painting this world of good guys versus bad guys, and it's just good versus bad, and everything in between is lost. Like you don't even know what's good and bad 100%. There's like good things with bad aspects and bad things, and it's like
yeah, it's like
you don't get only like pristine good things and like pure evil. It's like usually things have more sides, and you should always be careful. Like
because worst case scenario, if you push too hard in one direction, all it's going to do is encourage people who would otherwise be on the fence or in one of these nuances. They're going to end up possibly on the complete opposite end. That makes zero sense to do that. But one thing that people should not be on the fence about is listening to Nanowar of Steel. And I think that everybody can agree with that. And if not, they're racist. And that is
absolutely. And they deserve to die, by the way.
Correct. I'm glad you said it.
Correct.
Because, I didn't want to take that from you. That would have been
no. I don't want to sound like it's not an extreme statement nowadays. I would just drop it there, but
perfectly fair. Absolutely.
Let me remind that if you don't like Nanowar of Steel, you might might deserve to die. Let's say you might deserve.
Absolutely. And if you show up at
100%, but yeah.
Right. It's probably about 99.8%.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's throw in some uncertainty, but
exactly, just for the hell of it. Where can people find
science?
What's that? In the name of science?
In the name of science, yeah.
Exactly. Where can people find you online that you are most frequently frequenting? Let's just say like that.
I would say Instagram nowadays. So it's gattopancheri666. Something I forgot to say. Well, you called me by my real name, but my stage name in Nanowar of Steel is gattopancheri666, which is it's my stage name. So many people call me Gatto just because of that. It means cat in Italian. But otherwise, I would just suggest to you can write to Nanowar of Steel. You can find us on. Just look for Nanowar on YouTube, Facebook. We're all over the place, so it shouldn't be hard to find us. We got a decent number of followers and views, so if you look for that, it should pop out among the first results.
Excellent. And you guys will be doing a tour in America, inshallah, if God wills it.
Mustaqbal al-Qarib.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for coming on the Hammercast and being the first ever bonus episode.
Wow, thanks a lot to you.
And folks, normally I would close out the episodes by saying have fun and happy training, but since there was literally zero talk about training, I guess I'll just say bye-bye.